Are you planning to extend your Cisco SD-WAN to cloud or looking for optimizing multi-cloud and SD-WAN solutions? Then this Design Zone video is for you. Hi, this is Hasham from Alkira's product team, and joining me is Dipesh. Hey, Dipesh.
Hey Asham. Hey everyone. My name is Deepesh Kumar. I'm a solutions architect here at Alkira.
Dipesh, thanks for joining me on today's Design Zone video. I wanted to focus on Cisco SD-WAN integration with Alkira. And you posted a blog some time ago in which my understanding is that the emphasis on simplicity. Can you explain why the emphasis was on simplicity?
So when we look at deploying or extending SD-WAN connectivity towards the cloud, Alkira simplifies that process. So if you look at my screen here, the information parameters that are required here include just the instance name, the flavor of the edge or a Cisco SD-WAN edge instance, and then the software version. And then in terms of configuration, all that is required is the cloud init file, which can be generated from the Cisco SD-WAN vManage. And then if there is segmentation being extended from the SD-WAN network towards the Alkira side, what we need is the service side VPN number, the BGP ASN, and then the Alkira segment. And we can provision this on the Alkira side, and then the automation will create the instances, and then it will be ready to deploy.
So that's all we need to deploy the SD-WAN instances in Alkira CXP. That seems very simple. Can we step back a little, and then can you give me an end-to-end overview of how and where SD-WAN is getting plugged in and deployed in Alkira CXP?
Sure, sure, Assam. So kind of taking a step back here and kind of looking at how the deployment will happen, right? So if you can take a look at my screen here, this is the Alkira CXP, which is deployed in US West region, right? And on the left, if I zoom in a little bit, on the left, you see users and sites, which is basically connectivity from any on-premise environment towards this Alkira CXP. This includes connectivity from SD-WAN endpoints or IPsec endpoints. It could be remote access users. And then we also have options for private connectivity, for example, AWS Direct Connect and Azure Express Route. So that's the users and sites. In the middle, what you see is the services column. So the services column is basically showing any kind of security services or any kind of info blocks, for example. So all these services are here so that, for example, if the customer is provisioning security services, that then those can be used for traffic inspection for traffic coming from north to south or east-west. And then on the right, we have the cloud connectors, which is basically any cloud connections, whether it's, if the workloads exist in, whether it's in AWS, Azure, OCI, or Google Cloud, we have all the connections here on the right. And then traffic to be inspected for traffic coming in from these cloud connections towards on-prem can be inspected. And similarly, traffic from east-west, which is cloud to cloud, can be inspected as well.
Okay, that gives me a good idea of the end-to-end architecture. So we have a branch that is connecting using the SD-WAN to the CXP, where the SD-WAN instances are deployed on the left panel under user and site. There is a firewall services or third-party services in the middle if customer wants to integrate security for their traffic within the CXP. And on the right side, there is cloud connectivity for different cloud environments, right? That's great. Can you deep dive into configurations? I know they're very simple, but can you just describe a little bit more, like what kind of SD-WAN instances I can deploy for Cisco?
Absolutely. So kind of looking at this users and sites column, right? If you click on the plus sign and then look at Cisco SD-WAN configuration. So in terms of configuration, firstly, we look at what kind of edge instance we want to deploy, right? Whether it's a CSR, Cat 8, KV, or VH Cloud. Then we look at the software version. We update our versions based on recommendations from Cisco on this one. And the other thing that is needed as part of this deployment is the cloud init file. So this can be generated from the SD-WAN, Cisco SD-WAN vmanage. It's a bootstrap config that is generated and can be used here for deploying this instance. And then if I scroll down, this is basically the connector itself. So depending on the bandwidth that is required, we can select that, right? Target segment is basically if on the SD-WAN network, there are VRFs or route domains that have been created, and the customer would like to extend those all the way to the cloud, it's pretty seamless to extend those by just using the VRF or service VPN number on the Cisco SD-WAN side, the BGP ASN, so that we can exchange the routes. And then on the Alkira side, we can select the segment. Again, this is the same thing as the route domain. And then we have some options as to what we want to advertise to it, right? And then once that is done, we can save this, and then the Alkira automation will take care of provisioning the instance, will take care of interfaces and all that, and the instance is ready to be connected to the SD-WAN network.
So that's all we need. I didn't see you going into a cloud service provider's portal and configure the infrastructure, make the infrastructure ready to deploy the SD-WAN instances. You didn't spin up any VPC, VNet. You didn't take care of any routing, configuration of the IPsec tunnels, dynamic routing. Everything is taken care by Alkira, right?
Yeah.
And this seems like reducing my operational work from weeks-long planning and deployment of the instances to probably matter of minutes or hours, right? Okay, that's great. So we deploy the instances using the cloud init file on Alkira CXP through this simple UI page with minimal configurations. Now, can you show, does this get registered, instance get registered with the vmanage, and how do you operate from that point on?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I go back here under on the CXP, I have this SD-WAN instance already deployed, right? So once this is connected, or once this instance is created, what effectively happens is this gets registered on the vmanage. So as this is the Cisco SD-WAN vmanage. So as you can see, I have deployed a VH Cloud device model, and the device is registered, right? And we can take a look at the running config of the device itself. As you can see, the running config of the device is available, right? Now, as part of the configuration, what we are generating from the Alkira side, so once the instance is provisioned, I'm going back on the Alkira portal here, we click on download configuration. What this configuration will have is the configuration for BGP and IPsec. So we are kind of building this end-to-end connectivity from this instance and then connecting towards the LAN side of the SD-WAN instance from the Alkira side. So we are generating the config for the same. Now, once this configuration is downloaded, then on the SD-WAN vmanage, templates can be used. So if I go back here on the SD-WAN vmanage and click on templates, we have this template that I have created, right? And then this template has that same configuration. Now, obviously, the customer or the user has the choice of using a feature template and using or kind of giving the information or the input for the IP addresses and any variables. And then once those are entered here, or they could be using a CLI template, however the customer wants to use those. And once that is used, then the same configuration can be used here and then updated, and this template then can be applied on the device. And in that way, you have end-to-end configuration or the complete configuration done, and you have connectivity built from the instance to the Alkira cloud exchange point.
Okay, so Alkira took care of the deployment, but customer has the complete control of their instances through vmanage, and they can use the SD-WAN policies to implement their use cases, right?
Absolutely. So in that way, Alkira is automating the connectivity, and once the BGP is set up, route exchanges can take place, and then whether connectivity is required from the SD-WAN environment to any of the cloud workloads that can be extended end to end. And then we have the firewall services available as well for traffic inspection.
I get it. So the process is extremely simplified. But the question that I had, Dipesh, was that does the Alkira's and Cisco SD-WAN's integration, does that also simplifies the implementation of the use cases for customer? For example, HA redundancy, multi-cloud connectivity, inter-region routing, and any security related use cases?
So talking in terms of the integration benefits for Alkira and Cisco SD-WAN, so some of the advantages of using Alkira and extending Cisco SD-WAN environment or any SD-WAN environment from on-premise to the cloud, advantages are that the integration is seamless. The automation takes care of deploying the instance, routing, and those things. So the user or the customer does not have to deploy this manually and then create the routing on the in a cloud native environment or take care of route tables or subnets and all that. The other advantage being with the cloud firewall security. So when these instances are created, any traffic which is coming from the SD-WAN network and is destined for the cloud workloads, that traffic can be inspected by the security services or firewall services that we are creating within the Alkira Cloud Exchange point. So any traffic north-south in that way can be inspected. And similarly, if the customer is kind of connecting all their cloud workloads to the Alkira Cloud Exchange point, those the east-west traffic can also be inspected through the Alkira firewall services that are created. The next one is the segmentation. So end-to-end segmentation can be extended seamlessly from the SD-WAN environment to the cloud. If the customer has multiple route domains or VRFs that they are leveraging on their SD-WAN network, those can be extended all the way to the cloud seamlessly with this integration. Another one is the SD-WAN fabric. So depending on how the SD-WAN topologies or how the SD-WAN fabric is set up, whether it's a regional mesh or a partial mesh or whether it's a full mesh, route preferences can be set up, and the customers can then set up those route policies in a way that the topology is extended seamlessly. And then, if they are kind of having long haul private unrelay circuits, they can save costs on those as well. And then last but not least, M&As and divestitures. If the Cisco SD-WAN needs to operate with another vendor's SD-WAN solution, that can be seamlessly done as well. If the customer has a merger and acquisition where the acquired company is using a different SD-WAN vendor, then Cisco SD-WAN can be extended, and both the different SD-WAN networks can communicate easily with this integration. Now, looking into how the routing exchange would happen. So if it's a single region a routing exchange, then it's pretty seamless, right? You could just create these SD-WAN instances within the Alkira CXP. Then you have the connectivity to the nodes within the Alkira CXP, and you're exchanging prefixes from the SD-WAN to the cloud side. So this is pretty easy and pretty simple. If we are looking at a multi-region deployment, the same thing can be extended to multiple regions as well. So you have, in this case, prefixes from, let's say, cloud region A and then SD-WAN region A being exchanged as required. And similarly, prefixes which are in SD-WAN region B and then cloud region B can be exchanged as required, right? So in this way, we are on both sides, we can have route policies in place. So on the Alkira side, we have routing policies available to make sure that prefixes are sent in the correct preference, right? So that traffic symmetry can be maintained end to end. So in this way, a regional topology is created so that you have the regional communication happening depending on how the network is set up. And last but not least is the cloud firewall integration, which I talked about earlier as well, where if depending on where the SD-WAN environment is or how spread out it is, wherever the branch sites are, any communication between those sites towards the cloud workloads, that traffic can be inspected by the firewall services that are set up within the CXP. So and Alkira takes care of symmetry for the traffic towards these firewalls. So the customer does not have to configure any NAT rules. They don't have to configure any specific routing for these firewalls. Specifically, the Alkira automation takes care of all this inherently.
That's great, Dipesh. What I'm understanding is that whether I'm a new Cisco SD-WAN customer that moving into cloud, or if I am an existing Cisco SD-WAN customer, I can seamlessly integrate my SD-WAN infrastructure with Alkira solution, reduce operational overhead, and bring agility to implement my use cases, right? Well, thanks for joining me today, Dipesh.
Thanks, Hisham. It was a great conversation.
If you'd like to know more about how Alkira can help you with your cloud use cases, please contact us at alkira.com.